The NFL may or may not get its Jayden versus Caleb matchup on Sunday afternoon, but either way, there's no reason the Washington Commanders can't get their 6th win of the season. That and more coming up on today's episode of Locked On Commanders.
You are Locked On Commanders, your daily podcast on the Washington Commanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome in, everybody, to today's episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm David Harrison, covering the Washington Commanders for CommanderGameDay.com, a part of Sports Illustrated's group of sites, and I'm also helping WUSA9.com cover the team this season. I'm here with you every Monday through Friday. Thank you for coming through for today's episode, everydayers. A special thank you to you for coming through every single day. Locked On Commanders is your daily podcast covering the Washington Commanders, and if you haven't already, please subscribe on YouTube or wherever you are listening to today's show, which we are going to talk about Brian Robinson Jr. being the XFactor for this weekend's game. And we're going to make our predictions for Week 8 as the Washington Commanders host the Chicago Bears. But before we do that, we got to talk about the Chicago Bears ground game ascending in the National Football League rankings and how to stop Caleb Williams from having a rookie standout performance in Northwest Stadium. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL to use the code LockedOnNFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. So the big news of the day, of course, on Friday is quarterback Jayden Daniels with that rib injury did practice, according to head coach Dan Quinn, just didn't do it in front of the media. Did some throwing in the bubble, then he did some core exercises inside the facility while the media was outside watching practice. And then once the media went inside and the team got to their team portion of their practice, that's when Jayden came out and practiced with the team. He is officially questionable, Dan Quinn saying they're going to take it all the way up to Sunday, which is pretty much what we expected coming into the week anyway. Defensive end Dorrance Armstrong Jr. is also questionable with his rib injury that cost him the Carolina Panthers game. I do have a vibe and a feeling that he's probably going to be able to practice off it or be able to play. Offensive tackle Brandon Coleman, the rookie left tackle, is out with a concussion, unable to progress through the concussion protocol in time to play this week. So the Commanders will look to see if they can get him back next week. In the meantime, Cornelius Lucas will start and play presumably the entire game at left tackle in his place completely. Moving on from the overall injury report, the final game status report, we're going to talk about our 3 must-dos. Against every crossover Thursday, we talk about the 3 must-dos, but here on this final pregame episode or game preview episode, we dive deeper into all 3 and talk further about why those 3 things need to happen in order for the Washington Commanders to get the win. And if you watch the crossover Thursday episode with Lauren Cox, Locked On Bears host, you already know the number 1 must-do is containing Caleb Williams in the pocket and collapsing said pocket around him. In the 4 Chicago Bears wins this season, 4 of those 5 games, Caleb Williams had his longest average time to throw of the year. Now, the anomaly comes in the loss to the Houston Texans, where Caleb had his 3rd longest time to throw average. In that game, however, he was also sacked 7 times, and 11 of the Chicago Bears' 17 third down attempts came from 3rd and 7 or longer. So Houston is likely playing deeper shell coverages, leading to longer throw times allowed, but also 2 coverage sacks, 5 sacks coming on non-third and long downs, leading to the sacks, leading to the game flow going the way it did. So you want to apply the pressure. You want to force long 3rd downs against the Chicago Bears. Well, no duh, that's what every single team has to do. So why are we confident that the Washington Commanders can actually accomplish this? Because the Bears have overall actually done a very good job of not letting Williams face pressure. He's 19th in the league among qualifying quarterbacks facing pressures, although he's only played although he's played 1 fewer game than a lot of those quarterbacks he's behind. So when you look at quarterbacks that have only played 6 games this season because of the bye weeks, he's faced the 6th most pressures out of 11 quarterbacks, still middle of the field when it comes to facing pressure. So the Chicago Bears have actually done a fairly good job overall of not letting Caleb Williams be exposed to a whole lot of pressure. Among the top 32 quarterbacks this year in pass attempts, Caleb Williams is 22nd in pressure percentage, so pressures faced, but he's 6th in sack percentages. So as you would imagine, looking at those numbers, Caleb's pressure to sack rate is one of the highest. In fact, it's 3rd highest in the NFL right now at 27.8% of his pressures converted into sacks, just behind Deshaun Watson of the Cleveland Browns, who of course is now injured and out for the year, and Spencer Rattler of the New Orleans Saints. So the question is, how are teams getting pressure on him to convert those into sacks? Because again, he's not getting a lot of pressures, relatively speaking, compared to the rest of the quarterbacks in the NFL. When blitzed, Caleb Williams is 22nd in pressure attempts and has been sacked 7 times, a pressure to sack percentage of 23.3%. When he's not blitzed, his pressured reps ranking jumps 7 spots. He's actually receiving more pressure when he's not being blitzed, and his pressure to sack ratio jumps to 31%. That's the highest in the NFL, again, among qualified quarterbacks. In total, he's been sacked nearly twice as often when he's not facing a blitz, when he's facing no more than a 4-man rush, than when the defense is bringing additional rushers. When you look at the 13 sacks that come with 4 or fewer rushers, every team he's faced has been able to get home that way so far this season. And it's because while Caleb Williams has gotten better this season, and as the season has progressed, he's still sticking on his first read too long. And his feet are kind of dying on him from time to time, not really moving around all that much. He's waiting to see if that first read, that first option is coming open, not doing a whole lot of looking off. He likes to see the route open before he throws it. And it's a common rookie issue, but it's an issue that's causing him to get sacked even when the team isn't necessarily dialing up a lot of pressure. It's causing him to hold the ball longer because there's more traffic to sift through to see if that route is actually open. And that's what opens the door for 4-man rushers to get home. And they can do it rather straightforward, to be quite honest with you. Only once in his 13 times being sacked by non-blitzing defenses has Caleb Williams seen a defensive line that is stunted or twisted. That to me was pretty surprising. But they were all 4-man rushes. No 3-man rushes have gotten home. No 2-man rushes have gotten home. All 4-man rushes getting home against Caleb Williams when they're blitzing, so bringing 5 or more rushers. The issue leading to a lot of the sacks is still the same. It's holding onto the ball too long, sticking on that first read too long, waiting to see it come open before making a decision. And his completion rate is going all the way down to 58.2%. So it's kind of a benefit of doing either, right? Bringing 4 men, you're not getting the completion rate is going up, right? Because he actually has more time to throw. That's where the time to throw average is coming in pretty high, but he's also allowing more coverage sacks because he's holding the ball too long. But when you're blitzing him, because he has to get rid of the ball sooner to avoid the sacks, you're actually accelerating that clock. His completion percentage is going down and his turnover worthy play percentage is going up. So there's a benefit to both. It's just about understanding, I think, if you're that Washington Commanders secondary, all right, we're dialing up a blitz. Typically, Caleb is going to get the ball away really, really fast. He's also going to do it to his first read most of the time. So if I'm kind of that freelancer guy and I see Caleb's first read is coming to the left side of the field, I want to try to be aggressive and make a play on that ball because I know he's likely to get the ball out sooner. If I know there's a 4-man rush coming, no blitz behind it, and I'm in the secondary, then I know I need to I need to get stickier in my coverage longer. But if I do that, he will allow the pressure to get in and get to him for some sacks. And of course, those sacks turn into those 3rd and longs, like we just talked with the Houston Texans, where you can play deeper shells. You can allow the underneath completion, rally to the ball, make the stop, get off the field. So that's number one. If you can do that against the Chicago Bears, you're probably going to have some good success. However, it's not the only thing you got to do, because while you look at the overall rankings and say the Chicago Bears rush offense has not been that good this season, it's getting a lot better and it's on its way towards being one of the best in the NFL. We'll talk about that deeper coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And we're doing that thanks to our friends over at Prize Picks, who, with Prize Picks, you can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. You need 2 to 6 to play, but with as few as 4 correct picks, you can win up to 100 times your money. Prize Picks is the best way to get action on sports in over 30 states, including California, Florida, Georgia, and Texas. So sign up today, and you'll get a $50 bonus instantly when you play $5 for the first time. You don't even have to win to get that $50 bonus. It's literally guaranteed. So if you think a certain receiver is going to get more than the receiving stats projected on Prize Picks, put that on your lineup, get another win in your lineup, and you can win that $50. You can play that $5 lineup, again, 2 to 6 players, win $50 bonuses no matter what. And of course, again, win up to 100 times your money with as few as 4 correct picks. So cook up your hot takes, download the app today, use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get that $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup with Prize Picks. Run your game. Today's episode also brought to you by Z-Biotics. Pre-alcohol probiotic drink by Z-Biotics is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in your gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Well, pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to make Z-Biotics your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly, and you will feel your best in the morning. So here's how you use it. Step 1, drink pre-alcohol. For the best results, make pre-alcohol your first drink of the night. Step 2, drink responsibly. Pace yourself, hydrate, get a good night's sleep. Step 3, enjoy tomorrow. Wake up feeling refreshed and ready to take on the day. So go to zbiotics.com/LockedOnNFL to learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use Locked On NFL at checkout. ZBiotics is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/LockedOnNFL. Use the code LockedOnNFL at checkout for 15% off. Continuing now with today's episode of Locked On Commanders, diving deeper into the 3 must-dos that we identified in our crossover Thursday episode with Lauren Cox of Locked On Bears. Of course, if you want to get more out of Locked On Commanders, all you got to do is become a Locked On Commanders insider. And to do that, all you got to do is go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnCommanders. From there, you'll receive texts from me from games, practices, press conferences, just randomly throughout the day. You'll get bonus content, inside information, opinion, news, and you'll also get invites to our exclusive insider-only Zoom conferences that we hold at least after every single game. We try to do it every week before the game at some point as well. Looking to do that this week on Saturday with the insider. So again, join subtext.com/LockedOnCommanders to become an insider today. Dive deeper into our 3 must-dos, the continuation of this conversation, because containing Caleb Williams is the overall must-do, but you still have to stop the Chicago Bears winning or rushing game, because the question I wanted to really dive into here was, how are the Chicago Bears winners of 3 in a row? If Caleb Williams is really kind of, holding the ball too long, allowing these coverage sacks, how the Chicago Bears been able to win 3 in a row? Well, obviously that defense has been a big part of it. So clearly we have to give the hat tip to the defense, but offensively, not only is Caleb Williams getting a little bit better with his operational function, the rush game that's been helping this rookie quarterback, because of course every rookie quarterback loves a strong running game, has been getting significantly better. So the scheme is getting better because they're incorporating the run more, and they're incorporating the run more effectively. And also Caleb Williams getting better. So it's a little bit of both scheme and Caleb. But when you look at the scheme, and specifically you look at how they're asking their offense to operate, Caleb Williams threw no fewer than 29 pass attempts in his first 3 career games. 2 of those losses, really all 3 of them should have been a loss. The Tennessee Titans gave one away to him. He's thrown no more than 29 pass attempts in the last 3 games. In week 1, the Chicago Bears only ran the ball 17 times. Week 2, 17 times. Now, week 3, they did run the ball 27 times, lost a closer game to the Indianapolis Colts. But overall, they only ran for 151 yards in the first 3 weeks, averaging just 2.5 yards per carry in those games. The last 3 weeks, where they've won 3 in a row, they ran for 316 yards, averaging 4.2 yards per carry. Their season average right now, 3.7 yards per carry, ranks 31st in the NFL. So if you look at that, this is where stat scouting gets dangerous for you. Because if you look at that, you say, this rush game is not that great. But the last 3 weeks, 4.2 yards per carry have been great. Why is that? In the first 3 weeks, Chicago had 24 carries that went for 4 yards or more. In the last 3 weeks, that number has swelled to 35 of them. That's 3.7 more times per game a Bears rush is going for 4 yards or more. We're talking running backs here. That's nearly 4 more 2nd and 6s or 3rd and 2s or whatever that impact is per game. That's very significant. And it's about a 50-50 proposition on whether or not that's coming from the inside or the outside. So they can do it inside, they can do it outside. They're probing, they're finding out where the defense is going to give it up, and that's where they're going to. However, the other side of this is complementary football. We talk about that Chicago Bears defense, and when you look at what opposing offenses and opposing defense have been able to do, they haven't been good. So that's where the Washington Commanders have to continue to be good, because the Chicago Bears all season long have been slow to start. In week 1, they didn't score again. They didn't score for the first time until their 4th drive of the game. Now, again, the Tennessee Titans essentially gave that one away, but it still matters. Week 2, they scored on their first drive of the game, but they only scored twice in their first 11 possessions. Week 3, they didn't score at all until their 7th possession of the game, and then again in the 10th. In week 4, they scored in drives 4 through 7, right? So that's pretty good, but not scoring until drive 4 through 7. But the Los Angeles Rams also scored 4 times in their first 5 possessions. However, they scored field goals while Chicago Bears got touchdowns. So again, complimentary football. The Carolina Panthers game, the Chicago Bears scored on their 2nd and their 3rd drives. Meanwhile, the Carolina Panthers only scored on their 2nd and then not again until their 9th drive of the game. And then against the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Chicago Bears didn't score till their 3rd, scored their 2nd time in the 5th. But the Jacksonville Jaguars only scored twice in their 1st and their 7th possessions of the game. Hopefully you can track all that. Bottom line is, opposing offenses are not taking advantage of the Chicago Bears offense coming off to these slow starts, and it's costing them because the Chicago Bears are getting time to get into a rhythm, stay within their game plan, get the ground game going, and get these wins for Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears. The Washington Commanders offense has been very good about putting up points early, putting up points often. That's what you need to do against the Chicago Bears. And you need to take away possessions from the Chicago Bears offense. That's our second must do. Maximize turnover worthy plays. We're not going to go too deep into this one because it's kind of self-explanatory, but Caleb Williams has had 3 turnover worthy plays in the Houston Texans game that turned into 2 interceptions. He's had at least 1 turnover worthy play in every single game but one, the win over the Los Angeles Rams. He's gotten away with 5 turnover worthy plays that were not converted into interceptions by opposing defenses. Now, Washington isn't great about turning turnover worthy plays into takeaways, right? But they did take advantage of both of the ones they got against Andy Dalton and Carolina Panthers, getting a pick 6 among one of those interceptions. Now, Caleb Williams has the 13th highest turnover worthy percentage, and he has the 7th most turnover worthy plays in the season so far among qualifying quarterbacks. That's more than Andy Dalton. It's more than Deshaun Watson, the other 2 quarterbacks that this team has gotten interceptions against. So they need to be able to do the same thing against Caleb Williams. Lauren Cox of Locked On Bears, when he heard our 3 must-dos, he confirmed. He said, yeah, dude, Caleb Williams is going to give you 1 or 2 every single game. The question is, will the Commanders capitalize? Also, Chicago Bears like to run a lot of screen game. Dante Fowler Jr., first pick 6 of his career last weekend. Maybe he gets 2 in a row. Maybe he gets 2 in 2 weeks. I don't know, man. We'll have to see. Third must-do, run the ball. I want to see 25 or more carries between just the running backs in this game. Whether Jayden Daniels plays or not, whether it's Marcus Mariota scrambling, I want to see 25 or more totes just from the Commanders running backs. It's Chicago's weakness defensively, and outside of Daniels himself, it's the biggest strength in Washington. So flex that strength, shorten the game, dominate the clock. The Chicago Bears defense, very good in sack percentage, very good in interception percentage, very good at getting at the quarterback. They can't do any of those things when the running back has the ball. However, they're also very, very punchy at the football. So running backs, secure that ball, tuck it in high and tight. Chicago is allowing 4.9 yards per carry on 1st and 10 downs running plays this season. On 2nd down, the Bears are allowing 60% or more yards needed on 2nd and 6 or closer. That's so 60% is successful rate on 2nd down. They're allowing that 60% to be gained of the yards needed on every play, 2nd and 6 or closer. On 3rd downs, they're allowing more than the yards needed to gain a 1st down on anything 3rd and 3 or shorter. So understanding those metrics, understanding those tendencies, if you're the Washington Commanders, if it's 1st and 10, if it's 2nd and 6 or less, if it's 3rd and 3 or less, you need to run the ball. And I understand you can't do it every single time. You got to keep them honest, maybe hit a play action, maybe hit a screen, right? Do all these things. But generally speaking, 1st and 10, 2nd and 6, 3rd and 3, I want to see the ball get handed off to a running back. Again, regardless of if it's Jayden Daniels, regardless of if it's Marcus Mariota, that's what you need to do. And if it's further, look, if you get a 1st and 15 because of a penalty, then you need to look up a play that's going to get you 9 yards. Get to that 2nd and 6 or better, run the ball from there. If it's 2nd and 10, dial up a pass that you're looking confident that you can gain 7 yards or so. Get to that 3rd and 3 or less and run the ball. Don't get into 2nd and 10. Try to gain all 10 on one play. Try to dial up a 12-yard hitter because Marcus Mariota will hold on to the ball as well. And if you can't escape that Bears pass rush, that's where sacks happen. That's where interceptions happen out of desperation because you hold the ball too long. No, dial up the conservative stuff. Get into the yard to go that you can manage against the Chicago Bears defense and run the ball. Of course, if you have Jayden Daniels, makes it a little bit easier to attack this Bears defense. But either way, you need to be smart about it if you're Cliff Kingsbury, and that'll help you come out with a win, which is what I predict will happen against the Chicago Bears. I'll tell you my scoring margin, and we'll hear from our fans, our insiders on their XFactor and their prediction coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And we'll do that thanks to our friends over at FanDuel. NFL fans, you can get a big return this season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. While you're watching this Washington Commanders Chicago Bears game and you see the Chicago Bears not scoring in their first 3 drives and the Washington Commanders are hopefully taking advantage of some of the things we talked about. They've got a touchdown and a field goal at least on the board in their first 3 drives. You're feeling pretty good about it. You're like, man, I think the Washington Commanders are going to be able to take care of business here, even though they're underdogs. You go to the FanDuel, you get your live play-by-play updates, you get your live game stats, you get all the information you need, the exact same place that you can place that bet. And if it's your first $5 bet as a FanDuel member, you'll get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed whether you end up correct or not. The Washington Commanders are 3-point underdogs at home against the Chicago Bears. The over-under on this game is 43.5 for the total score. So to take full advantage of this latest opportunity, all you got to do, go to FanDuel.com and download America's #1 sportsbook. Wrapping up today's episode of Locked On Commanders. We're going to finish it off with our X Factors. We're going to finish it off with our predictions. And our X Factor for both of these, for my X Factor and for the fan voted X Factor, is Brian Robinson Jr. And I'd like to take a little bit of credit and say, man, that must be a big swell of everydayers coming through and voting and hearing what we've been talking about all week and what we talked with Lauren Cox of Locked On Bears about on Crossover Thursday. But I think that you guys are also very savvy football fans. So that's why the vote went the way that it did. But Brian Robinson Jr., guys, this game has his name written all over it. Because even if Jayden Daniels plays, he's not going to be 100%. If he was 100%, there wouldn't be this question on whether or not he's going to play. How is his rib going to react to what we just did this last week or, on Friday and all this other stuff? No, he'd just be good. We're going to throw him out there. He's going to be fine. The fact that there's any part of this, certainly some of it could be gamesmanship, and some of it likely is gamesmanship. But if he goes, he's still not going to be 100%. So ride Brian Robinson Jr., allow Austin Eckler to have his impact, allow Jeremy McNichols to have his impact. Heck, bring up Michael Wiley. We haven't seen him yet. I think Chris Rodriguez, if he gets called up one more time, he's got to stay on the active roster. So I don't think you have any more call-ups for him. So bring up Michael Wiley, give him some reps as well. Let's get 4 dudes out there. Let's run the ball 28 times. I don't care. But either way, I think Brian Robinson Jr., the catalyst of that run game, is going to be the top guy. There was a vote for Austin Eckler. Insider Cam came through. I said, I think we're going to utilize the running back passes heavily on the outside, and he's going to shine. Brian Robinson, I think, is definitely going to set the tone down the middle, but will be able to allow for running back passes to be open. I love it. I love it, man. I mean, if Austin Eckler ends up being the star, fine. But at the end of the day, the running backs need to dominate this game. Had a vote for Noah Brown. Scott came through, said vet-to-vet connection. I love that idea. Benjamin St. Juice and Mike Sanders still also got a vote with Aaron, saying the Bears have a lot of decent receivers. I think that's an understatement, and the corners need to come ready to play. Absolutely. Again, Caleb Williams will hold the ball. He'll stick on that first read, take advantage of it, pass rushers. I also got a vote for Jordan McGee or Johnny Newton. So Jordan McGee hopefully returning to the active lineup after dealing with being on IR and his knee injury and everything. Johnny Newton was kind of the secondary if Jordan McGee doesn't play. Although Jordan McGee does play probably more so special teams. Hey, maybe he forces or recovers a fumble on special teams and makes good on that prediction as well. Insider score prediction. Every insider voted for the Washington Commanders, which could be a little bit of homerism, but you know what? A good amount of Commanders, Locked On Commanders insiders voted for the Ravens to win that game when that happened. So I'm going to go ahead and say that we have a good amount of insiders who are not just homers and are true to the football spirit. The overall prediction average, Commanders 26, Chicago Bears 20. My prediction, again, this year so far, I'm exactly where the Washington Commanders are. I'm 5-2 on the year against the money line. So that's just straight up picks, which team's going to win. I'm 5-2 against the spread. The Commanders are +3. So again, 3-point underdogs at home against Chicago Bears this weekend. The over-under, again, 43.5 total points scored in this game. I am going Commanders 24, Chicago Bears 20. So I'm taking the Commanders straight up. I'm taking the Commanders against the spread, and I'm going barely over. I got 44 points here. That's barely over the 43.5. I don't know if that's a lot of confidence to take that line if you want to take it, but that's where I'm going, man. 24-20, Commanders over the Bears. And then next time we talk, it'll be on the other end of the Washington Commanders advancing to 6-2 with a Week 9 matchup on the road against the New York Giants coming up the following week. Until we come back for that episode, if you've got questions or comments, all you got to do is send me a text. All you got to do that, go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnCommanders and text me today. For your next listen, check out Locked On NFL. In the morning, it's the Madman Tyler Rowland. In the afternoon, it's the Barber Tony Wiggins. It's the all-new Locked On NFL, and it is twice per day. As always, thank you for making Locked On Commanders your first listen of the day, every day. Every dayers, thanks for coming through every day like you do. Until we speak again, if you're out and about, please be safe, be kind, and I will see you right back here next time for another episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.